Pranks are meant to end in laughter, but in this episode, they end lives. These are real cases where jokes crossed a line, panic replaced judgment, and ordinary moments turned fatal without warning. It was July 19, 2018, at a public lake in Madison, Wisconsin, during a hot summer afternoon. The shoreline was crowded with weekend visitors. Near the dock, the water appeared calm and shallow, but algae, shadows, and uneven depth created sudden drop-offs where boats tied up. Alyssa Morgan was 32 years old. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a regional retail chain and had moved to Madison a few years earlier. Friends described her as social and careful. She could not swim. She avoided swimming entirely and stayed only where she believed her feet could touch the bottom. The people with her knew this. That afternoon, Alyssa stayed close to the dock, sitting in a large inner tube with her arms resting on the sides. From the dock, friends talked with her while their legs hung in the water. Several people recorded short phone clips, nothing staged or planned. Earlier that week, a friend had bought a novelty inflatable shaped like a shark fin. It was small, black, and rigid enough to stay upright in the water. Someone suggested using it to scare Alyssa as a joke. There was no detailed planning. The assumption was that she would react, realize it was fake, and laugh. One person slipped quietly into the water behind her, keeping low and out of view. Alyssa was facing the dock, focused on the people above her, and did not notice the movement behind her. The inflatable fin was held just beneath the surface, then eased forward so it broke the water slowly, angled toward her legs in a way that suggested motion. When Alyssa noticed the shape, she reacted immediately. She did not pause to assess what she was seeing. The sudden appearance triggered fear, and her response was instinctive rather than planned. Instead of swimming away, Alyssa tried to pull herself up onto the inner tube. Her arms pressed down unevenly on the sides. The tube rolled under her shifting weight. She lost balance and slid off the side, reaching toward the dock as she fell. Her hand missed the edge. As she dropped, her head struck the rigid wooden underside of the dock. The impact was direct and forceful. She lost consciousness immediately. Her body fell face down into the water beside the dock, partly under the structure where the light was limited and visibility was poor. For several seconds, it was unclear what had happened. Then it became apparent she was not moving or resurfacing. People nearby entered the water and pulled her out from beside the dock and up onto the planks. When Alyssa was removed from the lake, she was unresponsive. CPR was started on the dock. Emergency services arrived and continued treatment, but she never regained consciousness. She was pronounced dead later that day. The medical examiner ruled the cause of death as blunt head trauma followed by drowning. The head injury caused immediate loss of consciousness. Water found deep in the lungs confirmed she inhaled water after submersion. Investigators reviewed phone footage, which showed the inflatable fin approaching and Alyssa's sudden panic. The prank was identified as the trigger. No criminal charges were filed. Authorities classified the death as an accidental drowning resulting from a prank. The inflatable was documented and referenced in the investigative report, and the footage was included in the official report. Friends later stated the hardest part to accept was how little time it took. The water appeared safe. Help was nearby. The panic lasted only seconds. Alyssa never knew the threat was not real. Alyssa's death took seconds, triggered by fear where safety seemed obvious. The next story moves indoors, where a prank meant to repair a marriage ends it instead. It was February 6, 2018, just after 10:30 p.m., in a second-floor apartment in Riverside, California. Most of the building was quiet for the night. Lights were off in nearby units, and the parking lot below was mostly empty. Michael Harper was 36 years old. He worked as an operations manager for a regional logistics company. Friends described him as organized and practical, but sometimes unaware of how his jokes landed. He had been married to Emily for 7 years. Their relationship had been strained by work schedules and money concerns, but there was no history of violence, threats, or police involvement. That day was their wedding anniversary. Michael wanted to surprise Emily when she got home from work. Earlier in the evening, he cooked dinner. After preparing the food, he left a chef's knife on the kitchen counter, planning to clean it later. Michael had ordered a cheap wig online days earlier. His idea was to stage a prank that would make Emily think he was in bed with someone else, then reveal it as a joke. He did not discuss the plan with anyone and did not consider how someone might react before understanding what they were seeing. In the bedroom, Michael arranged pillows under the blankets to resemble two people. He placed the wig on one pillow so the hair spilled over the edge. He left the room, lights off. From the doorway, the scene looked convincing. Michael then hid in the bathroom to wait. Emily arrived home shortly after 10:30 p.m. She entered quietly, assuming Michael might already be asleep. The apartment lights were dim. Dinner sat on the stove. She walked toward the bedroom without turning on the hallway light. From the doorway, she saw two shapes under the covers. One was on Michael's side of the bed. The other appeared to have long hair. There was no movement and no explanation. Investigators later stated that Emily's reaction was consistent with an acute stress response, triggered by what she believed she was seeing in the dark. Within seconds, Emily turned and went back to the kitchen. Her movements were automatic and unplanned. The knife Michael had left on the counter was still there. She picked it up and returned to the bedroom without turning on the lights. She did not call out or turn on the light. Michael heard her enter but did not react in time. He was still waiting to reveal the prank. Emily stabbed once through the sheets into Michael's chest. The blade went in deep, passing between the ribs and damaging a major blood vessel near the heart, causing immediate and massive internal bleeding. Michael sat up briefly as the pillows collapsed and the wig fell to the floor, revealing the setup. Blood spread quickly through the sheets. He then lost consciousness and fell backward onto the mattress. Medical examiners later confirmed that the blood loss would have caused him to black out within seconds. Emily realized something was wrong. She dropped the knife and pulled back the bedding, trying to stop the bleeding. The wound could not be controlled. Emergency services were contacted. Paramedics arrived to find Michael unresponsive and without a pulse. Resuscitation efforts were attempted, but were unsuccessful. He was pronounced dead at the apartment. Police documented the staged bed, pillows, and wig. The knife was recovered beside the bed. There were no signs of a struggle beyond the single wound. Neighbors reported no shouting or argument before the incident. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as a single penetrating chest wound causing rapid hemorrhage. There were no defensive injuries and no other trauma. The medical examiner concluded that death occurred very quickly. The death was ruled a homicide, with investigators identifying the staged prank as the triggering event rather than an act of premeditated violence. There was no evidence of intent to kill and no prior history of violence. Court records noted that the staged prank created a foreseeable risk, while expert testimony explained how sudden shock can override judgment. The case was prosecuted as a homicide without premeditation. Court findings noted the absence of intent and the role of the staged prank in the fatal sequence. The apartment was later re-rented, and the wig and pillows were destroyed after evidence processing. Daniel never saw that his joke would be his last. What followed shows how panic can turn a private space into a crime scene. The next case shifts outside, where a birthday prank becomes impossible to stop once a door shuts. It was April 18, 2018, in a small college town in the Midwest just after sunset. Classes were winding down for the semester. Students moved between houses and restaurants, celebrating birthdays and the end of exams. Nothing about the evening stood out. The birthday was for Ethan Morales, 21 years old, a junior majoring in communications. He worked part-time at an electronics store and talked about getting into media work after graduation. Friends described him as easygoing and trusting. He usually went along with ideas instead of planning them. The group met at an off-campus house after dinner. Music played. Phones were out. Someone suggested copying prank videos they had seen online. Fake kidnappings meant to scare someone briefly, then reveal the joke. In the videos, nothing went wrong. They agreed it would last less than a minute. Ethan was chosen because it was his birthday and because he trusted everyone there. The car belonged to one of the friends, an older four-door sedan that had changed hands among students. The trunk latch had a history of sticking and sometimes needed multiple pulls to open. The car did not have an internal trunk release. Everyone knew the latch was unreliable, but no one checked it. Just before 8:30 p.m., Ethan stepped outside with two friends, laughing at something on his phone. The others followed. When they grabbed him, he laughed and resisted lightly, assuming it was part of the joke. Someone filmed from nearby. They lifted him into the trunk feet first. He was still laughing when the lid came down. The trunk closed harder than expected. Inside the latch, the mechanism jammed. No one noticed. The group got into the car and started driving, planning to stop briefly at another house before ending the prank. Music was playing and the windows were up. Inside the trunk, the space was dark and cramped. Airflow was limited. As Ethan's breathing sped up from panic, carbon dioxide built up quickly, making each breath less effective. The metal enclosure trapped heat, raising his body temperature. He began yelling and pounding on the lid. The sound did not carry into the car. As minutes passed, his movements weakened. Panic and rapid breathing made the air worse faster. Heat stress set in. His coordination failed. He clawed at the inside of the trunk near the latch, leaving scratch marks and tearing the lining. Nearly an hour passed while the car remained parked and the group stayed inside, distracted and unaware of what was happening in the trunk. When they finally returned to the car, the noise from the trunk had stopped. Someone commented that it didn't sound funny anymore. They pulled over and rushed to the trunk. The latch stuck again. After repeated attempts, it finally opened. A rush of trapped hot air came out. Ethan was curled on his side, soaked in sweat. His lips were bluish. He did not respond. They pulled him out and began CPR, while emergency services were contacted. Paramedics arrived and took over care, but it did not help. Ethan was pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy determined the cause of death was hyperthermia, with associated hypoxia due to trunk confinement. The medical examiner noted a dangerously high core body temperature, fluid in the lungs, and signs of acute respiratory distress. The scratch marks and nail damage inside the trunk confirmed he had been conscious and trying to escape. The death was ruled accidental. No one was charged with homicide. Investigators found no intent to harm. The car was seized, and photos of the trunk were included in the final report to show how quickly conditions could become fatal. Friends later gave statements. Several said the same thing. They thought it would be funny. They thought they had time, and they believed someone would notice if it went wrong. The car was later scrapped. It never returned to the road. Investigators described it as a physical reminder of how quickly a prank can become lethal, not through violence, but through heat and minutes that no one was counting. Ethan Morales trusted the people around him and assumed there was time to react. The next story shows what happens when urgency replaces caution on unstable ground. If these stories changed how you think about everyday risks, consider subscribing. Each episode breaks down real cases where small decisions became final. It was April 16, 2018, just after sunrise, on a remote hiking trail in northern Arizona. The route followed a narrow sandstone ridge miles from the nearest road. Long stretches were exposed with steep drop-offs and no guardrails. Though dry, loose gravel lined the edge and shifted underfoot constantly there. Daniel Mercer was 27 years old. He worked as a junior video editor in Phoenix and spent much of his free time hiking and filming outdoor clips. He wasn't reckless by nature. Friends described him as careful and focused, especially when he had a camera in his hands. He liked documenting moments as they happened. That morning, Daniel was hiking with two longtime friends, Eric Lawson and Tyler Reed, both 28. The plan was simple: walk the ridge, film some scenery, and head back before midday. They carried no climbing gear. It was meant to be a casual hike. As they reached a narrower section of the trail, the drop to the right fell away sharply, broken by rock ledges below. The edge looked solid from a distance, but closer to the rim, the surface changed to loose stone over compacted sand. Daniel stopped several feet back and raised his camera, filming Eric as he stood closer to the edge. Earlier, Eric and Tyler had talked about scaring Daniel to get a reaction on camera. The idea was to fake a near slip, then step back and laugh. Eric wore a heavy backpack and planned to throw it over the edge to sell the moment, then stay where he was. Without warning, Eric shouted and tossed the backpack over the side. The pack disappeared quickly, bouncing off the rock before vanishing. Eric kept his footing and stepped back immediately. Daniel reacted on instinct. The sudden shout and the sight of the falling pack caused Daniel to move forward immediately. He rushed forward, camera still rolling, focused on the edge. He did not stop to check the ground beneath him. His right foot landed on loose gravel near the rim. The stones shifted under his weight. He tried to correct, but his forward momentum carried him past balance. The gravel slid away, and Daniel tipped over the edge. The fall was uncontrolled. He struck the first ledge shoulder first, twisting his body. His head hit next, snapping back. He bounced again, hitting his hip and back, then rolled down a series of sloped rock faces. Each impact slowed him briefly before gravity pulled him farther. The final impact came when his head struck a larger rock outcrop near the base of the cliff. His body slid a short distance and came to rest against broken stone. The camera fell from his hand and landed nearby, still recording. Daniel did not move. Eric and Tyler reached the edge moments later. The terrain below was too steep and unstable for a safe descent. They contacted emergency services and waited at the trail. Rescue teams arrived hours later after hiking in with ropes and technical gear. The terrain slowed access. When responders reached Daniel, he was already dead. His body was secured and lifted out as daylight faded. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as severe blunt force head trauma. Multiple skull fractures and internal injuries were consistent with repeated impacts during the fall. Investigators ruled the death accidental, noting that the fall occurred after a sudden movement toward the edge and loss of footing on unstable ground. Eric and Tyler turned over their phones and the camera. The footage showed the exact sequence: the thrown backpack, Daniel's forward movement, the slip, and the fall. Authorities found no evidence that Daniel intended to approach the edge closely or take a known risk. No charges were filed. The trail remained open. No barriers were added. The recording was never released publicly. Investigators described the footage as showing how a brief staged scare led to sudden movement near the edge and a fatal loss of footing. Daniel Mercer moved toward what he thought was an emergency. The final story takes place at work, where a split-second reaction on a ladder leaves no chance to recover. It was March 6, 2018, inside a commercial office building under renovation in suburban Phoenix, Arizona. Only a few crews were working that morning. Power was on, lights were functioning, and security cameras recorded activity as required by the contractor's insurance policy. Aaron Ruiz was 39 years old. He had worked as an electrical installer for nearly 15 years, most of that time on commercial jobs. Co-workers described him as careful and methodical. He followed written task lists, double-checked measurements, and avoided unnecessary risks. He rarely joked on the job and preferred to work without distractions. Aaron had 2 children in elementary school and regularly volunteered for overtime shifts. He was saving toward a down payment on a small house near his children's school. That morning, Aaron was assigned to install recessed ceiling lights in a finished hallway on the 3rd floor. The ceiling panels were already in place with pre-cut openings for wiring and fixture housings. The work required steady positioning beneath each opening while connecting wires and securing the light canister. Aaron used a standard fiberglass A-frame ladder rated for commercial use. It was placed on bare concrete flooring and fully opened, with the spreader bars locked. Before climbing, he tested the ladder's stability and adjusted its position to sit level. The ladder did not move when weight was applied. Aaron worked alone in the hallway, with other crews operating in adjacent sections. Several bays down the hall, another worker decided to play a joke. He had brought a rubber snake to the site earlier in the week and had shown it to co-workers during breaks. He believed it was harmless and assumed it would only cause a brief scare. Without telling anyone, he lifted a ceiling panel near Aaron's work area and placed the rubber snake loosely on top of the panel, directly above where Aaron was standing. The snake was not secured. No supervisor was present, and no warning was given. Security footage later showed the placement clearly. The worker left the area immediately after setting it in place. Aaron continued working, unaware. He climbed the ladder and raised both arms to align the wiring inside the ceiling opening. As he adjusted the fixture housing, his shoulder pressed lightly against the ceiling panel above him. The panel shifted slightly under the pressure. That movement was enough. The rubber snake slid off the panel and dropped straight down through the opening. The object struck Aaron across the upper chest and neck and brushed his face as it fell. The contact was sudden and unexpected. Aaron reacted reflexively. His upper body snapped backward before he could process what he was seeing. This startled response happened without conscious thought. As Aaron recoiled, his weight shifted sharply toward the rear of the ladder. One ladder leg lost friction against the concrete and slid outward. The ladder tipped sideways. Aaron reached instinctively, but there was no stable surface to grab. The ladder collapsed before he could regain balance. Aaron fell backward from a height of approximately 12 feet. His head struck the concrete floor first. There was no attempt to brace the fall. The impact was severe and immediate. His body followed, landing beside the ladder as it clattered across the floor. Aaron did not move. The rubber snake landed several feet away, fully visible on the ground. Nearby workers approached but did not touch him. Aaron was unresponsive with no purposeful movement. Blood pooled beneath his head. The ladder remained on its side next to him. Emergency services were contacted. Paramedics arrived within minutes and assessed Aaron at the scene. His injuries were catastrophic and incompatible with survival. He was pronounced dead at the site. The work area was shut down and police secured the hallway. Supervisors reviewed security footage later that day. The recording showed the prank being set up, the moment the snake fell, Aaron's immediate reaction, and the fall itself. There was no dispute about the sequence of events. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as a skull fracture with massive brain hemorrhage. Medical examiners stated the injury would have caused rapid loss of consciousness and death almost immediately. There were no defensive injuries and no underlying medical conditions that contributed. Investigators ruled the death an accidental workplace fatality, identifying the prank as the direct cause of the fall. The worker who placed the snake admitted responsibility and stated he did not believe anyone could be seriously hurt. There was no evidence of malicious intent, but the action was identified as the direct cause of the fall. The company terminated the worker the same day. Safety regulators cited violations related to unsafe conduct and failure to enforce prank-free work practices. Updated training materials explicitly prohibited practical jokes in active work areas. The renovation resumed several weeks later. The hallway was completed and reopened. No markings indicated what had happened there. The security footage remains part of safety training materials. It shows a routine task, a sudden startle response, and a fall that left no opportunity for recovery. Thank you for watching. Like this video? Click here.